morning all of you. Welcome in this class again. In the previous class I have already discussed a lot of problems and as well as theoretical portion, that means theoretical portion of limits which is related to trigonometric function. In this class I will mainly discuss with you some also relevant problems which is relevant to that topic and also extend out. Now I want to take directly problems, don't wasting time. 4 that means it is tan 4. This is also good problem. Limit x tends to 0, sin 2 plus x minus sin 2 minus x minus sin 2 minus x divided by x. You have to solve it. This is very simple. You can apply here sin c minus sin d formula, and other process you can expand it. After it some of terms will be reduced. After expanding, if you want to apply formula sin c minus sin d is equal to what? 2 cos c plus d. That means if you add, what do you get? X and minus x cancel. 2 plus 2, 4 by 2. That means 2 plus, sorry, into sin c minus d by 2. 2 plus x minus 2 minus x. That means 2 and 2 cancel, minus minus plus x. That means x 2x divided by x. This is your formula. Now, if you put again limits x tends to 0, 2 cos 2. If you can you write 2 sin 2x equal to 2 sin x into cos x? So can you write 2 to the 4 into cos 2 into cos x into sin x? And there is already given x. As you know that if you put x equal to 0, it will be 1, and according to formula, and it will be 1. Finally you write 4 cos 2, which is your final answer. Yeah. Now take next examples. Next example will be 11. In this problem there is given limit x tends to 0, cos x minus cos 3x divided by x into sin 3x minus sin x. Now you have to again utilize formula. There is nothing in this problem. As you know that cos c minus cos d is equal to what? Cos c minus cos d is equal to limit x tends to 0 to sin c plus d by 2, that means x plus 3x divided is equal to what? 4x by 2, that means 2x into sin d minus c, that means 3x minus x, 2x by 2, that means you can write sin x divided by, in denominator you can write sin c minus sin d is equal to what? 2 cos c plus d, that means 3x plus x by 2, that means 4x by 2, that means 2x into sin c minus d, that means 3x minus x, that means simply x, because c minus d 3x minus x by 2, that means 2x by 2, that means simply x. So sin x and sin x cancel. Finally you get 2 times limits x tends to 0, sin 2x by cos 2x tan 2x. So you can write sorry, 2 and 2 also cancel. Finally you get sin 2x by cos 2x, that means tan 2x divided by x. If you multiply numerator and denominator by 2, what do you get? 2 times limit x tends to 0, tan 2x by tan 2x is equal to 2x will be what? Simply you can write tan 2x by 2x, which will be 2 into 1, that will be 2, which is your required answer of this question. Now we take next problem for you. All these problems are very good. Only if you do practice more, everything become good, because mainly definitely you think about how can you use formula and how can we proceed to solve all these problems, because sometimes students face many problems. He faces how can we proceed, how does this type of clue directly come in our mind. Only practice, do more practice, and every concept becomes clear for you. Now I want to take another problem for you. This will be second. Given that limit y tends to 0, this is also good. Limit y tends to 0, x plus y sec x plus y minus x into sec x divided by y. I want to tell you, don't worry, don't bother with this problem, because there is nothing in this problem. X is just like a constant, and here y is variable. Only see about y, what happens with y. Now can you write it? Limit y tends to 0. After multiplying you get x times sec x plus y times sec x plus y minus x into sec x, can you write? And denominator you will get y. Now, if you separate this term, what you get? If you separate this term, if you separate this term, you get, don't write it as, I want to tell you, write firstly x plus y into cos sec x plus y, can you write it 1 upon cos x plus y? Similarly, minus x divided by cos x divided by y. Now, if you take LCM, it will be y, limit y tends to 0, x plus y times cos x minus x times cos x plus y divided by y times cos x into cos x plus y. I think you understand my logic behind it. Simply put y is equal to 0. If you put y is equal to 0, what do you get? In denominator there is already available y. In denominator there is already available y. Now, I want to tell you, simply expand it. Simply expand it. What do you get? Other matter. Limit y tends to 0. If you multiply this factor, you get x times cos x plus y times cos x minus x times. If you expand it using formula cos a plus b, what do you get? Cos a into cos b plus minus b, because a plus b, cos a plus b is equal to cos a into cos b minus sin a into sin b. Here there is a minus, so it will be plus x into sin x into sin y. Do you understand? In denominator you get y times cos x into cos x plus y. Have you understand? Now I want to tell you x into cos x and x into cos x, there is also available. If you put here y is equal to 0, both term will be cancelled. So you can cancel this term easily. I think you understand. Now if you see remains term, after separating, I want to tell you, separate this term separated by this and this term separated by this. Finally you get limits y tends to 0, y cos x divided by y cos x into cos x plus y. Finally you get y cos x divided by y cos x into cos x plus y. Plus limits y tends to 0, x sin x into sin y divided by y cos x into cos x plus y. So can you put x sin x into sin y divided by y cos x into cos x plus y. Now y and y cancel here, and sin y by y is equal to 1, and cos x cancel. Finally you get 1 by cos. If you put here y is equal to 0, you get 1 upon cos x, that will be sec x. Plus if you put y is equal to 0, it gives, don't put sin y by y is equal to 1, and the remaining term will be, if you put here y is equal to 0, you get cos x, and x into sin x divided by cos square x. So you can write x into 10x into sec x. After taking sec x common, what do you get? X into 10x. Actually in this problem there is nothing, only due to x students face problem, because there is x, he thinks about only x is a variable, but here x is behaves as a constant. Don't worry about x, only consider about y is a variable. Now I take next problem for you. This is your 11th one. I think this is also a good problem. Only do practice, I always tell you, and don't forget to remember all those formula of trigonometry. Now we take example 12. See 12 problem. Evaluate limits x tends to 0, cos ax minus cos bx divided by cos cx. Now limits x tends to 0. What is the formula of cos c minus cos d? Cos c minus cos d, I have already told you, 2 sin c plus d, that means a plus b into x by 2 into sin d minus c, that means sin d minus c, that means b minus a into x by 2 divided by cos cx. Can you write directly cos cx? Don't worry about it. Now you see that this is sin, this is sin, both will be sin, cos c minus cos d. Now okay, both will be sin. Now in this problem, sorry, there is given cos cx minus 1. देखिए, now it becomes very easy. If you take common minus from denominator, what do you get? Suppose that here I have taken common minus, then in that case you get 1 minus cos cx. What is the formula for 1 minus cos x? I have already told you 1 minus cos mx is equal to what? 2 sin square mx by 2. So can you write here? Here m is replaced by simply x. So you can directly put 2 sin square mx by, sorry, cx by 2. 2 cancel. Don't bother about it. Now remains term up. Now you have to consider it is sin kx. Suppose that a plus b by 2 as k. In that case you have to take in denominator a plus b by 2 into x. Then you have to again multiply numerator a plus b by 2 into x. In that case it becomes completely 1. Now see about it. If you see about it, what will be happen? Here b minus a by 2 into x. So you have to write in denominator b minus a by 2 into x. Then again you have to write in numerator what? b minus a by 2 into x. Have you understood? In that case it will be 1. Now you have to see about it. Now you have to multiply this factor by cx by 2 whole square, because there is given 2 whole square. If you multiply cx by 2 whole square, then you have to again multiply in its numerator cx by 2 whole square. Now it becomes 1. Now you have to consider about remains term. Now you can see that x and x square, here there is also x square, so it is cancelled each other. Now remains term will be there is 4 and 2 and x will be cancelled. Finally you get in denominator c square, this x is also cancelled, and in numerator b plus a to b minus a, which will be b square minus a square divided by c square, which is your correct answer. Now we take 13 problems. See example 13. This is very good problem. 13. Limits x sin a, limits x tends to 0, x sin a minus a sin x. I have written minus a sin x divided by x minus a. Now, how can you solve this problem? I want to tell you, you have to, there is a simple clue behind this kind of problem. So, do more practice this kind of problem. In this type problem, you have to write, there is a simple clue. What is that clue? I want to tell you. You have to add a sin a as well as subtract a sin a divided by. In numerator you have to leave it remain similarly. Now here if you take both terms in simplest, sorry, both terms simplest, what you get? X minus a into sin a. Can you write limit x tends to 0? X minus a into sin a plus, if you take here, what do you think about it? If you take common a, what do you get? Sin a minus sin x. I think you understand. Now in denominator you get x minus a. Have you understood? Now if you separate the whole expression, it will be sin a. This factor by this factor by this, in that case it becomes sin a. So it will be sin a plus limits x tends to 0. You can't here remove, so you have to write a times. You can take a out of this limit. Sin a minus x. What is the formula of sin a minus sin c minus sin d? Sin c minus sin d is equal to 2 cos c plus d by 2 into sin c minus d by 2. So you can write 2 cos a plus x by 2 into sine a minus x by 2, and take in denominator x minus a, which has already written. Now we have to think about this problem. There is given a minus x by 2. A minus x by 2. So it becomes there is a plus cos a plus x by 2. If you want to write a minus x by 2, definitely you have to take minus 2, as well as here also minus 2. In that case, it becomes a minus x by 2, and minus 2 will be constant. Here minus 2 is multiplied. There is only one division to balance it. Now you see that it becomes 1. If it becomes 1 and 2 cancelled, only remains minus 1. So it will be sine a minus sine a minus, if you put here sine a minus a, because this minus comes here, minus a into if you put here x is equal to 0, what do you get? Cos a by 2. So it will be cos a by 2, and the remaining term will be what? 1, because sin theta by theta is equal to 1, so it will be 1. So its answer will be sine a minus a by 2, a into cos a by 2. This is your answer. Now I want to take next example for you. I think next all problems which come in 13 will be same. So I don't like to solve this problem, because 13 if you wish if you want to solve second 13 to, this is also similar problem. You have to multiply, you have to add a sin a and subtract a sin a. Solve it by sim. If you want to hint, I will hint you. Second 13 second, limits x tends to a sin x minus x sin a divided by ax square minus xa square. You have to simply write limit x tends to a. In numerator you have to add and subtract one factor, which will be, I have already told you. You have to here you have to add x sin x, and you have to also subtract x sin x. Thereafter in denominator you get ax into x minus a. Now simply arrange it. How can you arrange? I want to tell you. Simply take common a minus x. That means a minus x. If you take sin x common here, sin x, sorry, don't take here. Here take common, because there should be x minus a. So you have to take here. If you take here common, what do you get? Limit x tends to a. This will be a minus x times sin x, and it will be plus x. If you take here common a minus x, you get sin a minus sin x. I think now you can solve. Separate it, and thereby separate it. Don't write answer. Separate it, and here you have to apply formula sin c minus sin a. Sin c minus sin a. After it becomes very easy. Now, again I want to tell you how can you solve next problem, 33rd. This is also good problem, but very easy. 33rd, first will be sorry, 41st. Limit x tends to 0, a plus h whole square sin a plus h minus a square sin a divided by h. It will be limit h square, h tends to 0. Can you write formula of a plus b square? A square plus h square 2ah sin a plus h minus a square sin a. Can you write? In denominator it will be h. Now simply I want to tell you multiply with it directly. After multiplying and what do you get? Limit x tends to 0, a square sine a plus h plus h square. You can take common here, you can take h in denominator and separate h square into sine a plus h divided by h plus 2a h into sine a plus h minus a square sine a by h. Now simply expand formula. If you apply that formula, a sine a plus h is equal to what? Sine a into cos h plus cos a into sin h. If you apply this formula, in that case you get some standard formula format. Limits h tends to 0, a square into sin a into cos h by h plus cos a square into cos a into sin h by h. Do you understand? Now I want to tell you similarly here you have to again here you have to also simplify it. You have to also here simplify. Finally, after manipulating, suppose that here you get what? Sin h by h is equal to what? 1, and you get again a same term in that place anywhere. You get similar same kind of place, and finally after manipulating you get its answer will be a square cos a, because you get sin h by h is equal to 1 and a square cos a will be similar constant. So you get a square cos a plus. I think here after if you manipulate it, then you get some that term. Don't write that because 2a h sin a plus h cancel 2a sin h. Now if you expand it, you get 2a sin a into cos h plus cos a into sin h. Here sin h those terms containing echo sin h will be 0, but those terms having cos h and sin a, cos 0 will be 1 and sin a 2a into sin a, it gives 2a into sin a, and remains term cancel each other, vanishes each other. If you expand it, you get add this term, and finally you get your correct answer. As you know that a square sin a by h, here you can see that a square sin a by h, because cos h as h tends to 0, cos h is equal to 1. Finally you can vanish this term. Similarly you can solve it. This is very easy, not trouble. Now I want to take next problem for you, which will be 15. See 15 one. Limits x tends to a, sin x minus sin a divided by root under x minus root under a. Now you definitely try to solve this problem. How can you solve it? Firstly, as you know that you have to rationalize it by multiplying its conjugate. Now it will be limits x tends to a. Now you have to apply sin c minus sin d. What will be the formula of sin c minus sin d? Is equal to 2 cos c plus d by 2 into sin c minus d by 2 into, it will be root x plus root a, and in denominator a plus b into a minus b. Finally you get x minus a. If you multiply by 2 and divide by 2, what do you get? It will be 1 and the remaining term is calculated. Simply put x is equal to a plus a 2a by 2, that means cos a into, if you put here a root a plus root a, that means 2 root a. So finally you get 2 root a into cos a, which is your final answer. Now I want to take second 15 see 15 what is this problem? Limits x tends to pi by 2 root 2 minus 1 plus sin x divided by cos square x. Can you write it? Limits. I want to solve this problem by other method. See it. Firstly simplify it. if you multiply numerator and denominator root 2 plus 1 root under 1 plus sin x, what do you get? Root 2 minus root under 1 plus sin x into root 2 plus root under 1 plus sin x. Similarly, if you multiply in each denominator cos square x into root 2 plus root under 1 plus sin x. Now, after simplifying in numerator, what do you get? A plus b into a minus b is equal to a square minus b square. So root 2 square 2 and root under 1 plus sin x square, root under 1 plus sin x whole square. Now, after multiplying by root 2 plus under root 1 plus sin x in denominator and numerator, you get limits x tends to pi by 2. Limits x tends to pi by 2. In numerator, you get root a plus b into a minus b form. So after multiplying, you get a square, that means root 2 whole square, that will be 2, minus b square, that means under root 1 plus sin x whole square, that gives you 1 plus sin x. So you can write it 1 plus sin x under bracket, and can you write cos square x as 1 minus sin square x? Why do we write? After some step you understand. Here you get root under 2 plus under root 1 plus sin x. You left it as before it. Now again write here 2 minus 1 minus sin x, that means 2 minus 1, that will be 1, and 1 minus sin x. So can you write it? Limits x tends to pi by 2, that will be 1 minus sin x. 1 minus sin x, because 2 minus 1, that will be 1, and plus minus sin x. And in denominator you get 1 square minus sin square, which will be 1 plus sin x and 1 minus sin x as a multiplication. Can you write it? 1 plus sin x into 1 minus sin x into under root 2 plus under root 1 plus sin x. So you can write again as a multiplication. There is no space, so I want to write here under root 2 plus under root 1 plus sin x. Can you write? Now take it under bracket it. Now here you observe that 1 minus sin x and 1 minus sin x cancels each other. Now finally you get limits x tends to pi by 2 1 upon 1 plus sin x, 1 plus sin x into under root 2 plus under root 1 plus sin x. If you put, now I have already told you, if you do some steps, suppose that I have done one step, thereafter you definitely check out, does it exist if you put directly x is equal to pi by 2 in your question. Similarly, you always after doing one step, two step, third step, always try to check out does it exist or not. If you put here x is equal to pi by 2 in this expression, what do you get? Sin pi by 2 1, so it will be 1 plus 1 2, and in denominator it will be sin x, that means sin pi by 2, that will be 1, so it will be root 2 plus under root 1 plus 1, that means under root 2, so it will be 2 root 2, that means it exists and it gives a real number. So you can put here directly, you get finally 1 plus, that means 1 plus sin x. If you put at x is equal to pi by 2, then you get what? Sin pi by 2, that will be 1. I want to write directly, so you can write here 1 plus 1, and it value of this expression will be root 2 plus under root 1 plus sin x. If you put x is equal to pi by 2 in sin x, what do you get? Root 2 plus under root 1 plus 1, that will be root 2. Now you have to simply manipulate 1 plus 1 2 into root 2 plus root 2, that will be 2 root 2. After manipulating, finally you get 1 upon 4 root 2, which is your required answer. This is the way by which you can find limiting value of any function. There is a simple way by which you can. I always try to use simply firstly check out in given problem, does it exist or not exist, by putting directly value in given expression. If it gives some indeterminate form, or that value which doesn't come in set of real number, then you always try to reduce some factors by, or try to if it is possible, or you feel numerator or denominator some factors are cancelled, that means able to cancel, then you can multiply or multiply numerator and denominator by its conjugate, that means rational factor. Thereafter again you get some step, that means after first step you get second term, then again you try to put in expression, does it exist or not exist, after putting x is equal to pi by 2. If it exists, then its value will be final at that step, but if it doesn't exist, then you again proceed for next step. Suppose that here I have multiplied by this factor and you get 1 minus sin x. Here you observe that cos square x, can you write it to 1 minus sin square x? Sometimes you have to consider by your intuitive idea which factor, how much we express trigonometric function or algebraic function such that numerator and denominator having some common factors and you can dominate each other. This is the simple way. Now again take next problem for you. Up to next problem for you. See it again. In the next question, uh, 16. See in question 16, if limits x tends to 0, if limits x tends to 0, kx into cosec x is equal to limits x tends to 0 is equal to limit x tends to 0 x into cosec kx, x into cosec kx. Find k. Now you have to find the value of k, for which this expression will be same as this expression. Now you see in this problem it will be kx into cosec x, while this expression will be x times cosec kx. Definitely you think about this problem. Can you write it? We start from your by taking LHS and RHS simultaneously. If you take it limits x tends to 0 kx, can you write cosec x as 1 by sin x? And similarly, can you write it limits x tends to 0 x times cosec kx? Cosec kx. Can you write? Now I want to write cosec kx as 1 by sin kx. Can you write it? I think you understand. Again, I want to tell you, here k is a constant. You can take common. You can take a common from limits. So I want to write k times limits x tends to 0 x by sin x, which will be limits x tends to 0. It will be here there is a given angle kx. As you know that if there is available also kx, then kx by sin kx, just as a reciprocal of multiplicative reciprocal of sin kx by kx. That means reciprocal of sin kx by kx. As you know that sin kx by kx is equal to 1 if kx tends to 0. If kx tends to 0, about which I have already told you. So I want to take in numerator k, such that in numerator you get kx and kx. Its form will be kx by sin kx, which will be just as 1. So I want to multiply numerator and denominator simultaneously by k factor. Then you get, I want to take 1k out of limits because it is a constant, doesn't affect. So take here kx by sin kx. Do you understand? Now again, you know that, you already know that. If you wish, I want to write again one step for you. Can you write it? Limits x tends to 0 1 by sin x by sin x by x, and it will be 1 by k into limits kx tends to 0 sin 1 by sin kx by kx. Now you definitely arise question. How can you write? It is very simple. As you know that x by sin x, you can write 1 by sin x by x because it comes in denominator of sin x. Again it after manipulating it again it can go in numerator. Similarly here I have done it. As you know that if x
x tends to 0, if x tends to 0, then if you multiply in x by any constant real number, then that value, that means the final resultant also tends to 0. Here I have taken k, where k is a real number. You can write here k belongs to real number. Here k belongs to real number. So if x tends to 0, then kx also tends to 0. You can write easily. So I have written here kx tends to 0. That will be when limits kx tends to 0, 1 by sin kx by kx. As you know that it can be written as k times 1 by sin x by x is equal to 1. Or you can another way, sin x by x tends to 1 when x tends to 0, which will be 1, and it will be 1 by k is equal to, here similarly you can also observe that when kx tends to 0, then sin kx by kx tends to 1. So you can write here also 1 by k times 1 by k, it is 1 by k and it will be 1 by 1. So after manipulating you get k times, that means k is equal to 1 by k. That implies that k square is equal to 1, so k is equal to plus minus 1, which is your required answer. Now, again take next problem for you. I think you understand. In next question, see here, in next question 70. There are two problems in 17, sorry, three problems. Firstly, I want to take first problem in which it is given that evaluate the following limits. First will be x tends to pi sin pi minus x, sin pi minus x divided by pi into pi minus x. Now you have to evaluate the following limits. Firstly, there are two processes by which you can solve this problem. Firstly, I want to give you first method. I have already told you in this problem there is given you have to evaluate the following limits. So 100% limit exists. If 100% limit exists, then you can find anyway by direct method or by evaluating the LHL or RHL, because you know that he says to you evaluating the following limits in the sketch, and this is not an objective question. Sometimes in examination they told you evaluate the limits and options given as a limit doesn't exist, then you have to check out. But there is no as like that condition, so you can proceed by any way. There, because in this question directly they told you have to evaluate the limits. So simply you can find LHL or RHL. As I already told you, RHL becomes more easier than LHL due to negative sign. So I want to take RHL directly. Can you write limit x tends to 0 sin x, when x tends to pi, then RHL will be limit x tends to 0 from positive side and it becomes pi minus x tends to pi plus pi h, because in that case I have already told you if you take suppose that x tends to fx, then it will be same as limits x tends to 0 from right hand side, x is replaced by a plus h, and similarly it will be also limit x tends to 0 from left hand side, x tends to 0 from left hand side, and x is simply replaced by, in second case a minus h, in first case x is simply replaced by a plus h. So I want to write here pi minus x is simply replaced by pi plus h. Pi plus h. So can you write it under bracket pi plus h divided by, in denominator you can write pi minus x is simply replaced by pi plus h. Now you observe that limit x tends to 0 from right hand side, pi sin pi minus pi, that means cancelled, finally you get sin minus h. Can you write sin minus h divided by, here similarly you get pi times minus h. Now I want to take the negative sign out of this sign. As you know that, can you write it limits x tends to 0 from right hand side, sin minus theta is equal to what? Minus sin theta. So can you write minus sin h divided by pi times minus h. Here minus sin and minus sin cancel each other, and finally you get sin h by h and pi in denominator. As you know that pi pi is a constant. So can you take common from this expression? Finally, you get 1 by pi times limits h tends to 0 from right hand side sin h by h. As you know that sin h by h tends to 1 if h tends to 0. So it will be 1 upon pi, which is your 1 upon pi into 1, that will be 1 upon pi, which is your required answer. This is the way by which you can solve this kind of problem. But I want to tell you again, you can solve this problem by LHL also. Suppose that I have to solve this problem by LHL. Again, you can take second method. This is the first method and this is the second method. In second method, we take LHL, and in LHL case, I have already told you, we take x is replaced by a minus h and h tends to 0 from left hand side. Simply take here h tends to 0 from left hand side and x is replaced by pi minus h. X is replaced by pi minus h. After manipulating, you get here positive and here you get again positive. Finally, negative sign is cancelled out. Here you take negative from LHL side. Finally, you get similar condition. That means this is the second method. You can solve anyway, but I have already told you this minus sign. I don't like to take a step by step negative sign, so mostly I use by RHL side. Again, in third method, what is the third method I want to tell you? Third method is a standard method. Sometimes you can solve this problem very quickly if you understand third method. What is third method? Try to understand. I have already told you limits x tends to a sin x minus a divided by x minus a is equal to 1. This is the formula. This is not formula. This is only another form of sin x by x when x tends to 0. There is nothing. If you take x, suppose that x minus a is equal to h. Suppose that x minus a is equal to h, then it becomes h. Then it will be h by h. Now x tends to a. This function transform in terms of h after taking x minus a is equal to h. Now when it is given x tends to a, that means approximately x and a is same. Then their difference will be very small positive quantity. In that case, you can say that h tends to definitely 0. So if you want to transform in another form, it will be h tends to 0 sin h by h. This is same. There is nothing difference in between them. So I want to tell you again, can you take 1 by pi common from this limiting value, limiting problem? In that case, you get limit x tends to pi. It will be in numerator pi minus x divided by pi minus x. Now this is nothing. This is same as this formula. So you can write here 1 by pi into 1, that will be 1 by pi. So you can sometimes use this formula, but by first method and second method is a general formula. Sometimes frequently you can use that process, but this is sometimes you have to manipulate, or sometimes you have to maintain or balance your problem. Suppose that sometimes in your given problem pi minus x is not available. In that case, we have to take it by multiplying numerator and denominator. So it becomes sometimes more complicated. So I always suggest you always try to solve problems by LHL or RHL. And in both cases you can use RHL, because RHL becomes more easy for you. Now I take 17th second problem. In second problem, there is given that you have to, in the second problem, see it, limits x tends to pi by 2. Limits x tends to pi by 2, tan 2x divided by x minus pi by 2. Now you have to solve it. Suppose that I want to tell you, there are two processes. Again, you can solve this problem by third process, because in this problem already given this problem, that means limiting value of this function exists. That means you have to simply evaluate, because in this question there is given evaluate the following limits. So you can solve it by LHL, RHL or direct method. But if you observe, if you think about direct method, what happened here? What happens here? If you think direct method, there is given 2x, but there is no any 2x. So you definitely go in confusion. So I always suggest you always try to solve by RHL or LHL. But if you look this problem as a direct form, then you can proceed. But I always but this problem is solved by all three methods. Maybe they see here limits. Can you write? I want to first solve it by RHL. Can you write h tends to 0 from right hand side, and according to RHL, simply x is replaced by pi by 2 plus h. That means according to a standard form of definition. Can you write tan 2 times pi by 2 plus h, and in denominator similarly x is replaced by pi by 2 plus h minus pi by 2. Can you write? Now here it will be limits h tends to 0 from right hand side. If you multiply by 2 in this angle, what do you get? Tan pi plus 2h divided by, in denominator you get pi by 2 vanishes each other, and in denominator you get pi h. Now as you know that limits h tends to 0 from right hand side, tan pi plus theta. What is the formula of tan pi plus theta? As you know that this angle line third quadrant, and third quadrant tan will be positive, so you can write directly here tan 2h divided by h. Here in the numerator h is, but here there is 2h, so you can multiply numerator and denominator by 2. If you multiply numerator and numerator by 2, what do you get? There is 2h and there is 2h. And you know that 10x by x approaches to 1 if x approaches to 0. Here in place of x there is given 2h. Definitely tan 2h by 2h approaches to 1 if 2h approaches to 0. And you know that if h approaches to 0, in that case by multiplying on both sides by 2, you again can say that 2h also approaches to 0. So I want to write one step again. Can you write 2 times limits? If you wish, you can write it. If you wish, you can write since h tends to 0 from right hand side, so 2h also approaches to 0 from right hand side. So you can write limits 2h approaches to 0 from right hand side, and remains factor will be function will be tan 2h by 2h, 2 into 1, which will be 2. This is the way by which you can solve it. Similarly, if you wish, you can solve this problem by also LHL method, but I want to leave it. But I want to solve this problem by third method directly. Now, how can you consider about third method? How can you consider about third method? See here, limits x tends to pi by 2, tan 2x divided by x minus pi by 2. Second method is very easy. Simply pi by 2 plus h is replaced by pi by 2 minus h. That is nothing. So I want to leave it. And third method here. Now, here you observe that limits x tends to pi by 2, tan 2x by x minus pi by 2. Now, I want to tell you, can you write limits x tends to pi by 2? Now, I want to write here, can you write it to tan 2x plus pi? There is a given pi 2x minus pi by 2. So I want to write here negative sign. Can you write here tan 2x minus pi? Now you definitely arise a question, how can you consider? Because if you manipulate in denominator, what do you get? 2x minus pi. 2x minus pi. If there is also available in numerator 2x minus pi and x tends to pi, then it becomes very easy for you, because it is just like 10x by x. So I want to tell you here, can you write 2x minus pi? In denominator, what do you get? X minus pi by 2. Now, I want to manipulate it. Is it correct or not? I want to manipulate it. Is it correct or not? 10 2x minus pi. Can you write it? 10 minus pi minus 2x. What is the 10 formula of 10 minus theta? 10 minus theta is equal to minus theta because there is minus. So it will be minus 10 pi minus 2x. Again, what is the formula of pi minus theta? Minus 10x. Then finally you get a minus minus plus 10 2x. That means this is correct. That means 10 2x minus pi is equal to 10 2x. So I have written here. Now in denominator you get x minus pi by 2. X minus pi by 2. Now if there is x minus pi by 2, again you see here x is approaches to pi by 2. X is approaches to pi by 2. There should be x is approaches to what? There should be x is approaches to, that means 2x is approaches to pi by pi. 2x approaches to pi, because if 2x is approaches to pi, then it becomes 10x by x. That means just as a given problem. So I want to write here. Can you write here limits x tends to pi by 2, 10 2x minus pi divided by 2x minus pi, and if you take numerator it's LCM part. Now again write here. Here it is just as 10 2x minus pi divided by 2x minus pi. Now you can write one exactly if 2x approaches to pi. If 2x approaches to pi. Here see x is approaches to pi by 2. And you know that x is approaches to pi by 2 means that what? Means that you can say here 2x approaches to pi. Why? Because when x is approaches to pi by 2, its actual meaning x is approximately pi by 2. X is very very close to pi by 2. If x is very very close to pi by 2, then you can equate for 1 second. If you equate, then you can write 2x is approaching to pi. If 2x is approaching to pi, then you can say that 2x is approaching to pi by this way. So I want to write again for 1 minute. If you take 2 common from this value, can you write it limits x, that means limits 2x approaching to pi? You can take any value, it doesn't matter. You take here x, y. For 1 minute, if you wish, you can suppose 2x is equal to y. You can suppose 2x is equal to y. In that case, it becomes limits y tends to pi. It becomes very easy. Now here you get it becomes 10 2x minus pi divided by 2x minus pi, and finally you get 2 into 1, which will be 2, which is the required answer. This is the way. So I always tell you, try to solve. If you see in the given problem it can't be solved by any formula, then proceed by solving directly RHL. Don't go by this way, because this becomes sometimes more complicated with respect to RHL or LHL. So I suggest you try to solve this kind of problem always RHL, because in RHL simply you use a trigonometric formula, because so I have already told you, remember all trigonometric formula. See problem third. See problem third. In third problem there is given limits x tends to 1, cos pi x by 2 divided by 1 minus x. Now there is idea, how can you solve this problem? This is very easy, but further I want to solve it. Limits x tends to 0 from right hand side. I already told you, if you put x is equal to 1 in this problem, you get cos pi by 2, 1 minus 1 0, that means cos pi by 2 is equal to s to 0. In that case it becomes at 0 by 0, which is indeterminate form. So you have to definitely solve by RHL method. If you go by RHL method, limit x tends to 0 from right hand side, and x is simply replaced by 1 plus h. So can you write cos pi by 2 1 plus h divided by 1 minus x is replaced by simply 1 plus h. So can you write minus 1 plus h? After manipulating you get limits x tends to 0 from right hand side, cos pi by 2 plus pi by 2h. Can you write here? Can you write here? In denominator you get 1 minus 1 0 and it will be minus h. Now you have to utilize formula cos pi by 2 plus theta. What is the formula of cos pi by 2 plus theta? Minus sin theta. So can you write limit h tends to 0 minus sin theta? Here theta is given what? Pi by 2h. It is just as a theta. Now it becomes minus sin pi by 2h divided by minus h. Minus minus cancelled out. Finally you get limits h tends to 0 from right hand side sin pi h by 2 pi h by 2 divided by h. There is given h. If you here you observe that there is a pi h by 2. That means angle is given pi h by 2. But in denominator there is simply h. So you definitely try to take here pi by 2 such that it becomes pi h by 2 and it will be pi h by 2 sin pi h by 2 sin pi h by 2 as the expression, that means sin x by x, because there is a, in formula as you know that limits x tends to 0 from right hand side sin x by x, there should be center. If there is x, then there should be also x. So I want to manage it, balance it. If as you know that there is given in angle sin pi h by 2, so I want to take here pi h by 2. I have taken forcefully pi by 2 in denominator, so you have to also multiply by this factor in numerator. If you multiply in numerator by pi by 2, now see here, can you take pi by 2 common from numerator of this expression? Finally you get limit h tends to 0 from right hand side. It will be sin pi h by 2 by pi h by 2. Now I want to tell you, here you see that limits, see again problem, formula, limits sin x by x approaches to 1 when x approaches to 0. That means there should be same x as well as x approaches to 0. But if you see this problem, there is given what? It will be pi h by 2. That means angle is pi h by 2. But there is h. Now you have to balance it. You have to manage it. How can you manage? It becomes very easy. How? Simply h approaches to 0. I have already told you, if h approaches to 0, if you multiply h by any constant number, real number, then that final value also approaches to 0. So you can write here also. Simply pi by 2h also approaches to. How can we write? It is very easy because h approaches to 0. For balancing this angle and taking in a standard formula, I have multiplied in this approaching value pi by 2, which will be remain same. So it will be pi by 2 into 1, because if sin x, suppose that pi h by 2 is x, then sin x by x approaches to 1 if x approaches to 0. This is the concept behind it. So it will be pi by 2 into 1. So its final value will be pi by 2. I think you understand again this problem. Now I want to take next problem again for you, which will be 18. See again. This problem also can be solved by direct method, but sometimes it becomes more complicated. Now, see example 18. What is 18? See it. There is given limits x tends to alpha, limits x tends to alpha, 10x minus 10 alpha, 10x minus 10 alpha divided by x minus alpha, x minus alpha. Now, x minus alpha. How can you solve this problem again? See it. I want to solve this problem. How can you solve this problem? You can solve this problem two ways. Firstly, write 10x as sin x by cos x, 10 alpha sin x, sin alpha by cos alpha. After manipulating, you get in numerator some formula, and by directly putting you can solve it. But I want to give you some other method. What is the other method? As you know that I have already told you, what is the formula of 10x minus alpha is equal to, I think you know, 10x minus 10 alpha divided by 1 plus 10x into 10 alpha. Do you know its formula? So can you write 1 plus 10x into 10 alpha is equal into 10x minus alpha is equal to 10x minus 10 alpha? Can you write? Here there is given 10x minus alpha is equal to 10x minus 10 alpha divided by 1 plus 10x into 10 alpha. After cross multiplication you get 10x minus 10 alpha is equal to 1 plus 10x into 10 alpha into 10x minus alpha. Can you write? If you write here, so I want to replace 10x minus 10 alpha by this factor. If you replace this factor by this expression, what do you get? It will be limits x tends to alpha and 1 plus, sorry, I want to firstly write 10x minus alpha into 1 plus 10x into 10 alpha divided by x minus alpha. Can you write? Now, I want to resolve this limit in two parts. Can you write? Limit x tends to alpha 10x minus alpha divided by x minus alpha into limit x tends to alpha 1 plus 10x into 10 alpha using algebra of limits. Now, if x tends to alpha, as you know that limits x tends to 0 from left hand side will be 10x by x is equal to what? 1. So, if x tends to, and I have already also told you, 10x minus a by x minus a approaches to 1 if x approaches to 1. So, can you write 1 using this formula? Or if you want to solve this problem by RHL or LHL, you can also proceed. If you suppose that I want to solve this problem by RHL, in that case x is replaced by alpha plus x and here x is replaced by alpha plus x. In that case you get here 10 minus alpha divided by minus alpha. If you take formula 10 minus theta, then you get in numerator 10 minus theta is equal to minus 10 theta. That means minus 10 alpha divided by minus alpha, minus cancel, finally you get 10 alpha by alpha, and finally as you know that alpha approaches to 0, so it becomes 10 0 by 0 form. That means it becomes 1. But I want to utilize direct formula, so it becomes in this case 1 into. Now I want to put directly x is equal to alpha in this expression. What would happen if you put x is equal to alpha? If you put x is equal to alpha in this expression, it becomes 1 plus 10 alpha into 10 alpha. If it becomes 1 plus 10 alpha into 10 alpha, as you know that 1 plus 10 alpha into 10 alpha is equal to 1 plus 10 square alpha, and 1 plus 10 square alpha is equal to what? 6 square alpha, which is your required answer. This is the way by which you can solve this problem. Now, you definitely think other method. If you use solve by other method, then I will definitely provide. See again, second method. This is first method for you. So I have already told you, remember all trigonometric formula, because without formula you can't consider to solve very well with limits problem. See again, second method. How can you solve a second method? This is also very easy for you. As you know that there is given limit x tends to alpha. Can you write 10x as sin x by cos x? And sin alpha by cos alpha. Can you write? And in denominator you get x minus alpha. Now, after taking LCM or manipulating, sometimes you get sin x into cos alpha into cos x into sin alpha. That means sin x into alpha. I want to write one step again. Sin x into cos alpha minus cos x into sin alpha divided by cos x into cos alpha into x minus alpha. Now, I want to write it will be limit x tends to alpha. What is the formula of sin a into cos b minus cos a into sin b? I think you know, sin x minus alpha divided by x minus alpha. I want to resolve this expression in two parts. Here, limit x tends to alpha, sin x minus alpha divided by x minus alpha, limit x tends to alpha. In can you write it again? Cos x into cos alpha. Now it will be 1, and so can you write 1 into limits x tends to alpha. Now I want to directly put in this expression. If you put x is equal to alpha in this expression, what do you get? 1 by cos alpha into cos alpha. 1 by cos alpha into cos alpha will be what? 1 upon cos square alpha. That will be 1 upon cos square alpha will be what? sec square alpha. This is the other method to solve this problem. Again, see next method. Sorry, next problem for you. You can see here there is nothing, only using formula very well. Now I want to take a next problem for you 19. See again 19. What is 19? You have let the following limits. There is a given limits extends to pi by 2 1 plus cos 2 alpha 1 plus cos 2x divided by pi minus 2x whole square. Pi minus 2x whole square. Now I want to solve this limit. I have already told you you can solve this problem by two methods, by RHL or by direct method. I always suggest you can try to solve this problem by RHL. It becomes more helpful for you. Now I want to write, can you write? I can solve this problem also by direct method. It becomes less time taking, but I want to give you a standard method such that you can solve in examination. Sometimes direct method becomes more complicated for you. I have already told you. I think here there is given 1 plus cos 2x. Can you write 1 plus cos 2 x is replaced by pi by 2 plus h? I have already told you. Can you write here 1 plus cos 2 pi by 2 plus h divided by pi minus 2 times x is simply replaced by pi by 2 plus h, pi by 2 plus h, and whole square of the whole expression. Now I want to write it limits at to 0 from right hand side. It will be 1 plus. If you multiply by 2 in whole expression, what do you get? Cos pi plus 2h. What is the formula of cos 2 pi plus h? Cos h. So can you write it? Cos h divided by, after multiplying again by 2 in this expression, you get 2 to cancel and you get here minus pi and it becomes 2h. So pi cancel and finally you get minus 2h. And minus 2h whole square will be 4h whole square. So can you write here 4h square? Now I want to take again as limits, right here one step. Limit at to 0 from right hand side. 1 plus cos h is equal to what? I think you know. 2 sin square h by 2. Can you write? 1 plus cos h is equal to 2 sin square h by 2. Can you write? Now in the numerator you get 4 times h square. 4 times h square. Now you get here h by 2. But there is also available a term h square. So there is also h square. But there we need one term 4. If there will be 4, then it will be h by 2 whole square. In that case you can take sin square h by 2 and h by 2 whole square in one fractional form. So I want to take here 4. Forcefully, if you take forcefully here 4, if you take forcefully 4, then you have to also balance. For balancing, you have to multiply again by 4. This is the way. Now, firstly, take constant which is not used in formula one side and other will be one side. This is the used or this is the formula form. Now, I want to take remaining term 2 cancel 4 by 2 times. Finally, you get 1 by 8. So can you take 1 by 8 common from this expression and you get limit x tends to 0 from right hand side. Sin square h by 2 by h square by 4. Can you write directly sin h by 2 divided by h by 2 whole square? As you know that this whole square can be written as under root whole square. That means whole square of expression. So in that case it will be 1 by 8 into 1 whole square, which will be 1 by 8. I think you understand. Now you can write another also question. How can you write? Because there is h by 2 and there is h by 2. There is h and there is h by 2. So you can take here h by 2 because you know that if h approaches to 0, in that case you can multiply. That means if you multiply in h by any constant factor, then that resulting value also approaches to 0. Here I have multiplied by 1 by 2. Now again take next problem for you. Next problem will be, rub this part. In the next question, see next question again. In the next question, second, limits x approaches to pi by 2, limits x approaches to pi by 2,
limits x approaches to pi by 2, 1 minus sin x divided by sorry, in the previous problem I have used a wrong formula, be careful. In last step I have taken here 1 plus cos x. 1 plus cos x. As you know that 1 plus cos x is equal to 2 cos square h by 2. Into 4 times in numerator you get h square. So correct it. I have done some mistakes here. 1 minus sin x divided by pi by 2 minus x square, pi by 2 minus x whole square. Now, here you observe that firstly I want to tell you, write RHL of this expression. Can you write here pi by 2 plus x divided by pi by 2 minus x whole square. Now, limits x tends to 0, limit x tends to 0. Now it will be 1 minus pi by 2 minus x whole square. Now I want to solve this problem direct method firstly. How can you solve this problem by direct method? See here, direct method. Direct method is also very easy, not complicated here. So I want to use direct method. 1 minus sin pi by 2 plus h. 1 minus sin pi by 2 plus h is equal to what? 1 minus cos x divided by pi by 2 minus x. That means, sorry, pi by 2 I have not used here. X replaced by pi by 2. So can you write minus pi by 2 minus h whole square? In that case, pi by 2 cancel, and finally you get in denominator what? H square. Now, what is the formula of 1 minus cos x? 1 minus cos x is equal to, limit h to 0. 1 minus cos is equal to what? 2 sin square h by 2. Here it will be 2 sin square h by 2 divided by h square. Now there should be 4. So I want to take 4 in numerator of h square and denominator of h square fourthly. So for balancing we have to also take 4. After it you get h square by 4. Finally its value will be 1, and finally 2 times 1 by 2. Finally you get 1 by 2. I want to write directly. Again take 19. This is 19 second. Now I want to take 20. See again, problem 20. 21st. In this problem there is given limit x tends to pi by 2. Limit x tends to pi by 2. Sec x minus tan x. Sec x minus tan x. How can you solve it? Again simplify it. Limit x tends to pi by 2. How can you write 1 minus cos x minus sin x by cos x? So I want to write directly 1 minus sin x by cos x. Simply it will be 1 by cos x and it will be sin x by cos x. So I have taken here LCM, which will be cos x, and manipulating you get 1 minus sin x by cos x. Now it will be limit x tends to pi by 2. 1 minus sin x. 1 minus, there is a 1 minus sin x divided by cos x. Now I want to tell you, firstly write RHL. If you write RHL of this expression, what you get? X tends to 0 from right hand side. 1 minus x is simply replaced pi by 2 plus h. Similarly, as denominator also, it will be pi by 2 plus h. Now, it will be limit x tends to 0 from right hand side. 1 minus sin pi by 2 plus theta is equal to what? Cos theta. So can you write minus, because there is it lies in second quadrant. So it will be positive. So it will be cos h. And denominator will be cos pi by 2 minus h. Now 1 minus cos h is equal to what? It is cos h. It is cos h, and it will be 1 minus cos h. What is the formula of 1 minus cos h? 1 minus cos h is equal to limits h tends to 0 from right hand side to sin square h by 2, and in denominator you get what? Minus h. Minus h. Now there is can you take these two in denominator? After taking in denominator, what do you get? You get, is it visible? Limits h tends to 0 from right hand side. I want to take negative from out of this expression. You get sin h by 2
by h by 2 into h by 2. Can you write? Can you write? Now value of this expression will be 1, but due to this expression it becomes 0, so final value will be 0. Again take the next problem. 0 is a real number, so limiting value of this expression exists. Now again take next problem. In next question, second, limits x tends to pi by 4 1 minus 10x divided by x minus pi by 4. I want to tell you again, this is you can solve again a direct method. I have already told you what is the formula of 10 pi by 4 plus 10 pi by 4 plus x. 1 plus 10x divided by 1 minus 10x. Do you know? Because 10 pi by, this is nothing, this is a 10a plus b. 10a plus b is equal to 10a plus 10b divided by 1 minus 10a into 10b, where a is equal to pi by 4. I want to write x plus pi by 4, because in that case it becomes very, write here x minus pi by 4. In that case here will be 1 minus 10x and there will be 1 plus 10x. 10a minus 10b. Write here pi by 4 firstly and write, take it pi minus x by 4. Pi by 4 minus x. Now, write it. 10a minus b. What is the formula of 10a minus b? 10a minus b is equal to 10a. That means 10 pi by 4, which will be 1. Minus 10b, that means minus 10x divided by 1 plus 10a into 10b. Here 10a is equal to 10 pi by 4, that will be 1. And 10b, that means 10x, so it will be this. Now, can you write 1 minus 10x? 1 minus 10x is equal to 10 pi by 4 minus x divided by 1 plus 10x. Now, you see here, in denominator you get x minus pi by 4. Definitely you try, there should be also x minus pi by 4. How can you write this expression x minus pi by 4? I want to suggest you, can you write this expression 10 negative times x minus pi by 4? What happened here? I have done nothing. Simply taken negative sign common from this expression. What is the formula of 10 minus theta? Suppose that this angle will be theta. In that case, it becomes 10 minus theta. 10 minus theta is equal to minus 10 theta. So, can you write it? Minus 10 x minus pi by 4 is equal to 1 minus 10x divided by 1 plus 10x. Can you write? Now, simply put, in place of 1 minus 10x is equal to 1 plus 10x into minus times 10x minus pi by 4. Then, can you write? This is the smart method to solve this kind of problem. Can you write 1 minus 10x is equal to 1 plus 10x into minus 10 x minus pi by 4 divided by x minus pi by 4. Now, there is given x tends to pi by 4. Definitely, whole value of this expression will be 1. And negatives, after taking negatives and common, it will be minus 1 times 1. And you can directly put here in place of x pi by 4. After you get 1 plus 10 pi by 4. 10 pi by 4 is equal to 1. So 1 plus 1, 2. And 2 times 1 into minus 1, that will be minus 2, which is your required. I think you understand. But you can solve also this problem by RHL or LHL. If you want to solve by LHL, you have to firstly put 10 pi by 4 is equal to firstly convert 10x as sin x by cos x. Then you have to manipulate in denominator. In numerator you get cos x minus sin x divided by cos x into x minus pi by 4. Then apply both side. Then again RHL. After in RHL, so its final value will be minus 2. Now take a next problem again. Next problem, see it again, which will be 23rd, which is as limits
x tends to pi by 4 sin x minus cos x divided by x minus pi by 4. X minus pi by 4. How can you solve it? This is also very easy for you. Firstly, write its RHL. If you take RHL, what do you get? Sin pi by 4 plus h minus cos pi by 4 plus h divided by, in x you write here pi by 4 plus h minus pi by 4. Here pi by 4 cancel, and simply you get limit h to from right hand side. What is the formula of sin A plus B? Sin A, it means sin pi by 4 into cos B plus cos A into sin H minus cos A into cos B minus plus sin A into sin B. Do you understand? And in denominator you get simply H. Now you have to, there is 1 by root 2 times cos H. 1 by root 2 times cos H, and there is also 1 by root 2 times cos H, but opposite is. So I want to remove it. In this expression you get cos pi by 4, sin pi by 4, both will be same. 1 by root 2. So I want to take common from this expression 1 by root 2 into sin H plus sin H, which will be 2 times sin H. So I want to take also common 2, and finally you get limit h to 0 from right hand side sin H by H, which will be 1, and root 2 cancel root 2 by root 2 times, so finally you get root 2 times 1, which will be root 2, which is your required answer. Again take next problem for you, which will be 21. See 21. 21 first. See firstly 21 first. First will be evaluate the limits. Limits x tends to pi by 2. Limits x tends to pi by 2 cos 3x minus 3 cos x divided by pi by 2 minus x whole cube. How can you solve this problem? Firstly, I want to suggest you simplify. What is the formula of cos 3x? What is the formula of cos 3 theta? 4 cos cube theta, that means 4 cos cube x minus cos 3 theta is equal to 4 cos cube x minus 3 cos x. 3 cos x minus, there is minus or plus minus, minus 3 cos x divided by pi by 2 minus x whole cube. Have you understood? Now I want to write one step again, but before writing I want to express this expression as 3x minus firstly write it will be limits x tends to pi by 2 and 4 cos qx. Can you write RHM? X tends to 0 from right hand side, 4 times cos pi by 2 plus h whole cube minus 3 cos x minus 3 cos x minus 6 cos x minus 6 times cos pi by 2 plus h. Can you write? Divided by pi by, in x plus x is replaced pi by 2 plus h, in that case pi by 2 minus pi by 2 diminished, and finally you get minus h whole cube. Finally you get minus h whole cube. Can you write? Now here you get the cos pi by 2 plus theta. What is the formula of cos pi by 2 plus theta? Minus sin theta. Can you write it directly? Limits x tends to 0 from right hand side, 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times cos, that means sin, 4 times sin cos 90 plus theta will be what? Minus sin theta. So I want to take the negation 4 sin qh and minus 6 sin minus minus plus
6 sin h divided by, in denominator you get minus h whole square, minus h whole square. So if you take negative sign out of, that means negative sign h cube, if you multiply numerator and denominator by minus sign, it will be positive, and it will be negative and it will be positive. For simplifying, I have written here. Now it becomes 4 sin cube h divided by h cube minus 6 sin h. Now see here, sorry, I see there is plus sign in your problem. Sorry, by mistake I have written a negative. Sorry, this cancel will be diminished. So I see here there creates problem to evaluating the limits. So this will be fine. In your given problem there is plus sign and I have taken negative sign. So I face trouble. So finally you get 4 times limit x tends to 0 from right hand side sin cube h divided by h cube, which will be 4 times 1. Finally you get 4, which is your required answer. Similarly, I think next problem is similar way. You can solve also, but I want to even solve. Second will be limits x tends to pi sin 3x minus 3 sin x divided by pi minus x whole cube. First I want to write it. Can you write limits x tends to pi? What is the formula of sin 3x? 3 sin x minus 4 sin cube x. So can you write 3 sin x minus 4 sin cube x minus 3 sin x divided by pi minus x whole cube? Can you write? Now 3 sin x, 3x sin x cancel, and finally you get minus 4. Can you take common from here? Then you get minus 4 times limits x tends to I want to write x tends to 0 from right hand side, and x is replaced by pi plus h. In that case you get sin pi plus h whole cube divided by in denominator also you get similar pi minus h whole cube. In that case pi cancel, and sin pi plus h is equal to what? It lies in third quadrant, and sin pi plus h is equal to minus sin h. It will be minus sin minus h whole cube. Sin minus theta is equal to minus sin theta. So I want to directly write minus 4 times limit h tends to 0 minus sin cube h divided by minus h cube. Minus h minus cancel, and sin cube h by h cube tends to 1 when h tends to 0. So finally it will be minus 4, which is your required answer. Now again take next problem for you. 22. Twenty-two will be for you. Limits x tends to pi 1 minus sin x by 2 divided by cos x by 2 into cos x by 4 minus sin x by 4. You have to evaluate the limits. How can you solve? Simply firstly write its RHL. If you write its RHL, what do you get? Limit x tends to 0 from right hand side 1 minus sin pi by 2 plus h divided by cos pi by 2. That means x is replaced by pi plus h. So it will be pi. X is replaced by pi by h. Sorry, I have to write here pi plus h by 2. And there is also pi plus h by 2, and it will be cos pi plus h by 4 minus sin pi plus h by 4. This is your RHL. After manipulating, you get limit h tends to 0. Sin pi by 2 plus h by 2. It becomes sin pi by 2 plus h by 2. Sin pi by 2 plus h by 2. That means sin pi by 2 plus theta. That will be minus 1 minus cos h by 2. Can you write? Divided by cos pi by 2 plus, it becomes again sin h by 2 into, if you manipulate cos A into cos B plus sin plus, it will be cos pi by 4 plus h by 4. So can you write it cos pi by 4 into cos h by 4 minus
sin pi by 4 into sin h by 4. Can you write? Minus sin a, that means sin pi by 4 into cos h by 4, minus cos pi by 4 into sin h by 4. Can you write? I think you understand. Now I want to compare here cos pi by 4, cos h by 4. Is there any cos h by 4? There is h by 4. Here as you know that cos pi by 4 is equal to 1 by root 2 and sin pi by 4 is equal to s 1 by root 2. So both term will be vanishes each other and you get here minus will be minus sin pi by 4 will be, so both will be minus 1 by, so both will be minus 1 upon root 2, that means minus 1 upon root 2, minus 1 upon root 2, and sin h by 4, sin h by 4, that means minus 2 upon root 2 into sin h upon 4. So can you write it? Limits h tends to 0 from right hand side. So 1 minus cos h by 2, that will be what? 2 sin s square by 4. 2 sin h square by 4 divided by sin h by 2 into root 2, that means negative plus minus, because 2 upon root 2 minus 2 upon root 2 minus root 2 into sin h by 4. I think you understand. H by 4. Now h by 4 cancel this expression by h by 4 times, and root 2 cancel this expression root 2 times. Finally you get limit h tends to 0, limit h tends to 0, sin h by 4 by h by 2, sin h by 4 by h by 2, sin h by 4 I have taken common, minus root 2 common, and sin h by 4 by h by 2. Can you write h by 4 sin h by 4 by h by 2, h by 2. Now you definitely think, how can you write 1 minus cos h by 2? I think I have already explained about this formula, 1 minus cos mx is formula. And sin h by 2, can you write sin h by 2 is equal to 2 sin h by 4 into cos h by 4? So I want to write minus root 2 times limits x tends to 0 from right hand side sin h by 4 divided. Here you get root minus root 2 divided by 2. That means if you divide 2 by root 2, you get what? Minus root 2. That means in that case you finally get limits h tends to 0, limits h tends to 0, limits h tends to 0, one minute wait, limits h tends to 0, there should be negative, sorry by mistake I have forget it, because cos 90 plus theta is equal to what? Minus sin theta. So I have written here negative sign. This negative and this negative will be what? Because I have this negative and this negative will be positive. Finally you have to take here positive and you have to take again positive. Finally you get 1 upon root 2, you can take common from whole expression and you get sin h by 4 by sin h by 4 cancel each other, and in denominator you get 1 upon cos h by 4. If you put h is equal to 0, you get 1 by cos 0 is equal to 1. So finally you get its answer will be 1 upon root 2. There is nothing in this problem. Simply you have to simplify this expression, and after simplifying you get here 1 minus cos h by 2. Now I want to again explain this this value. How can you write? Can you write 1 minus cos h by 2 as 2 into h by 4? 2 into h by 4. Suppose that h by 4 as theta. 1 minus cos 2 theta is equal to what? 2 sin square theta. Here theta is equal to h by 4. So I have taken h by 4. So I have written directly 2 h sin square h by 4. Similarly, here I have written sin h by 2 is equal to 2 sin h by 4 by cos h by 4. How can we write? Simply, can you write sin h by 2 is equal to sin 2 times h by 4. Sin 2 times h by 4 is equal to what? Sin 2 theta is equal to 2 sin theta. Suppose that this angle is a theta. In that case, sin 2 theta, 2 sin theta is equal to sin 2 theta is equal to 2 sin theta. That means sin h by 4 into cos h by 4. This is your answer. That means sin h by 2 is equal to 2 sin h by 4 by into cos h by 4. This is your expression. So this is your final answer. Now again I want to take next examples for you. 22 over. The next problem,
23. See here 23. 23 will be, let fx is equal to k cos x. Let fx is divided into two categories of a function. K cos x divided by pi minus 2x, and other function will be 3. But this function is taken only when x is equal to not pi by 2, and this function is taken in that case when x is equal to pi by 2. Now find the value of k. What is the value of k? What is value of k if limits x tends to pi by 2 of fx is equal to f pi by 2? This is given. As you know that limits x tends to pi by 2 of fx is given f pi by 2. Now there arises a simple question. What is the value of f pi by 2? F pi by 2 means that value of fx when x is equal to pi by 2, which will be 3. So f pi by 2 is equal to 3, which is given. Now you have to evaluate this value. Now according to this question, limiting value of fx when x approaches to pi by 2, what will be the value of this what will be the value of fx when x approaches to pi by 4? Pi by 2. Definitely you consider two ways, by LHL or RHL. So you need consider both way such that you can recognize what will be happen if you proceed by LHL or RHL simultaneously. Firstly, RHL of fx, because limits exist, you can go direct method also. Suppose that I want to go direct method. Can you write limits x tends to pi by 2 of fx? Now there arises a question. Limits x tends to pi by 2 of fx. It may exist two ways. That means if you go by LHL, suppose that I want to go RHL. In that case, can you write limits x tends to from right hand side f pi by 2 plus h? What is the meaning of this expression? F pi by 2 plus h. Meaning of this expression, x is simply replaced by pi by 2 plus h, and pi by 2 plus h means that x is slightly greater than pi by 2. X is slightly greater than pi by 2 means that you have to choose that function which is defined for x is greater than pi by 2. Now you consider here there are two categories of fx. You can take fx is equal to 3 when x is equal to pi by 2, and on other condition when x is equal to not pi by 2. When x is equal to not pi by 2 means that either x is greater than pi by 2 or x is less than pi by 2. In that case you have to take fx is equal to k cos x by pi minus 2x. So I want to take this function. So can we take limits h tends to 0 from right hand side, simply x is replaced by pi by 2 plus h, then you get k times cos pi by 2 plus h divided by pi minus 2 times pi by 2 plus h. Now you have to write here, simply take here. Can you take k common from this expression? K times limit of tends to 0 from right hand side cos pi by 2 plus theta is equal to 1. Minus sin h, can I write? Minus sin h divided by, here if you manipulate you get minus 2, that means minus pi minus 2x. So can I write here minus 2x minus cancel. Now I want to take k by 2 limit x tends to 0 from right hand side, it will be sin h by h, which will be 1. I want to write directly, which will be k by 2, which will be also equal to what? 3. So k is equal to what? 6. So k will be your final value, which will be 6. So you can solve also this problem by LHL. I have taken here RHL, but if you wish, you can take a limit, that means LHL of this function fx at x is equal to pi by 2. In that case, you again get k is equal to 6. Now take the next problem for you. 24. 24 is a good problem for you. See here. Sometimes this question is asked many times in your board. So carefully see. Limits x tends to 0, x into sine 1 by x. You have to evaluate value of this function, how can you solve? Firstly, I want to tell you there are two procedures by which you can solve this process. Sometimes a student confused about this problem. Students go wrong method. I want to suggest wrong. I want to explain some that method as students take during solving this question. So I want to explain this wrong concept. Sometimes the student x tends to 0, right here sin 1 by x by 1 by x, because x can be taken as numerator. Now he said that just as the angle 1 by x, this is 1 by x, so it will be what? 1. But this is not correct. Why? Because I have already told you, if you see your formula, limit x tends to 0 sin x by x, in that case x also approaches to 0 and this x also approaches to 0, then it will be 1. But if you see here, when x tends to 0, then 1 by x approaches to infinity. Similarly, in denominator, it also approaches to infinity. So you can't take its value will be 1. This is a wrong concept. Now, I want to explain its actual concept. I think you can explain also by graphical, but x into sin 1 upon x, having you have no idea how can you draw its graph. So I want to take by its concept method. As you know that, since limits x tends to 0, x is equal to what? I think you know limits x tends to 0, x is equal to what? 0, and limits x tends to 0 mod sin 1 by x, you can take mod sin 1 by x is less than or equal to 1. Why? Because mod sin 1 by x is less than or equal to 1. I want to tell you sin 1 by x, according to this problem, x is slightly greater, that means x approaches to 0. You can take either side. If you take either side, in that case it becomes sin 1 by 0. Sin 1 by 0, I want to take, as you know that since modulus of sin 1 by x is less than or equal to 1, or in other words, you can say that also sin 1 by x is greater than or equal to minus 1 but less than or equal to 1. For any value of x, you can take larger and larger value of x, a smaller and smaller value of x, but sin 1 by x always lies between minus 1 and 1. If sin 1 by x lies between minus 1 by 1, then its modulus always less than or equal to 1. But greater than or equal to 0. But greater than or equal to 0. Now, according to this question, x approaches to 0. No matter for which value, and what is the value of fx toward what is the value of sin 1 by x towards x approaches. So don't care about sin 1 by x gives as output what? Simply think, as you know that sin 1 by x, sometimes it is also called bounded function. Bounded function, so what is the reason behind it is a bounded function? Because its range will be restricted, minus 1 to 1. That means sin function is always greater than or equal to minus 1 but less than or equal to 1. So its modulus will be always greater than or equal to 0 but less than or equal to 1. So here you can write sin 1 by x is greater than or equal to 0 but less than or equal to 1. According to this problem, can you write limits x tends to 0, sin 1 by x is equal to what? Sin 1 by x is equal to what? Can you tell about it? It will be always greater than or equal to minus 1 but less than or equal to 1. It is very simple concept. Why do you take? Because x is approaches to 0, then this is simply nothing. This is a sine function. In case of sine function, value of sine function always greater than or equal to minus 1 but less than or equal to 1. In that case, since sine 1 by x is a bounded function, over real number except, you can take here except 0, because if x is equal to 0 then it becomes 1 upon 0 and 1 upon 0 sine infinity. If sine infinity, then it doesn't give any output because it becomes because infinity is not a real number. So I want to tell you x is approaches to 0, it becomes definitely greater than 0 slightly or less than 0 slightly. but it is not a exactly 0. So sin 1 by x is a bounded function. That means if you consider, then you can say that the limits sin 1 by x gives, so I want to write here limits x tends to 0 sin 1 by x is equal to k belongs to real number and k is greater than or equal to -1 but less than or equal to 1. This is simple concept. Now it may be any value. It may be any value. As you know that, rub this part. As you know that, I have already taken if a concept I have taken already. If limit x tends to 0, fx is equal to 0 and limits x tends to gx and gx is a bounded function. That means gx is greater than or equal to minus k but less than or equal to k, where k belongs to any real number, then limits x tends to 0, fx into gx is equal to what? 0. It is about this theorem I have already explained in first classes. So I want to know this part. So using this theorem, so limits x tends to 0, x into sin 1 by x is equal to 0. This is very simple because if it is 0 and sin 1 by x, that means x tends to 0, when say x tends to 0, sin 1 by x will be any value. In that case, definitely its product approaches to 0, so it will be 0. I think your all problems which is related to this chapter will be covered in this video. Now, in the next class, I will discuss with you again some other types of limits problem which comes in a logarithmic function and exponential function. Thanks all of you. In the next class, I will discuss a limiting problem which is relevant to exponential function and logarithmic function. I want to again tell you, remember some property of exponential which will be definitely learnt in your class 8th, 9th, and the limits will be logarithmic. You have to remember simple logarithmic property and simple notation of natural log and common log. Thanks a lot. Next class I will again discuss. Bye.